This is your City Council Roundup, a recap of what's happening at City Hall with John Ongaro. The views expressed in this program are solely of those of the host and not necessarily those of the radio station or its partners.
All right, a fairly interesting meeting last night that wasn't supposed to be interesting, but then it got interesting. But that's not what we're talking about today in the Roundup. Look who's here, City Clerk and Director of Legislative Services. I love that title.
Oh, thank you.
Krista Power, good morning.
Good morning.
You are fresh off of a long meeting last night. Thank you for taking the time to wake up early and come and visit us. At least you weren't there till midnight.
No, I'm always happy to go home at a regular time.
Yeah, as is everybody else. There's a couple of things that you and I need to talk about today.
Okay, I'm ready.
And there's a couple of things that I know you're not going to answer. And we've already talked about this off the air, that you are very good at sometimes not answering these questions because...
I disagree.
And it's fine. It's really fine. But the reason you're here today is to talk about this latest initiative that your department is obviously involved in, which is changing the look and feel of how city council meetings happen. I'm an average Joe that happens to have nothing else to do on Monday nights but watch your meetings, which, is sometimes a form of entertainment and a frustration at the same time. The proposal that came in front of council last week to start this process was, not last week, sorry, several months ago, was that there is a city council meeting, which is where decisions are made. Yes. I'm dumbing it down for myself here.
No, I appreciate it.
So a city council meeting is where decisions are made, but that is not what happens first on Monday night. What happens first on Monday night is a committee of the whole meeting.
Correct.
Which is not a city council meeting. It's the meeting for councilors to discuss issues, whatever else, and move things forward to a city council meeting. So although a bylaw or a rule or a recommendation comes down at a city council committee of the whole meeting, that's not really where it becomes the deal, or the law, the bylaw. That happens in city council. Very confusing. So let's confuse it even more by taking the committee of the whole as it stands now and creating committees by department to discuss these issues before a city council meeting. Question number one. This suggests to me that there will be more meetings, yes or no?
No.
I don't believe you. So if these committees don't meet every week then?
No.
That's the difference.
Yes.
Because right now we meet every week.
Yes, we would continue to meet every week. 1 week it would be a city council meeting.
Right.
1 week it would be a standing committee meeting on growth, standing committee on finance and administration,
right.
Standing committee on insert topic.
So
X.
will there be only 2 of these meetings per week? Similar layout to what we have now?
So right now, what we're proposing is actually there would be 1 meeting per week, either a standing committee or a city council meeting. On the night of a city council, we would likely have a committee of the whole closed session.
Okay. Now let me pose this scenario to you.
Okay, I'm ready.
Say hypothetically I'm a counselor.
Okay.
Maybe one day.
Maybe.
Probably never. But anyway, say one day I'm a counselor and I am on the standing committee for finance, the budget, or talking about budget issues. How many other counselors are on this committee with me?
Right now, we're looking at potentially 5 to 6.
Okay. So that would mean that 5 or 6, as it stands right now, are not part of this committee. So in those discussions, half of the city council is making decisions about finance and then bringing that to the city council meeting. How does this sit for me, that is a counselor representing an area or at large, and there are 5 others that are not in that meeting that have a voice in that process?
So their voice in that process happens at city council.
I see. So the purpose of breaking it apart is, let's get the nuts and bolts out of the way first and then bring it to council?
Yes. And I would say standing committees, this isn't a Krista Power construct.
Right.
This is something that
It
happens in
everywhere.
many municipalities. The city of Toronto use standing committees, right? And there's an opportunity for that smaller group to have more robust discussions, potentially there to be less barriers for the public to engage because there's 5 to 6 members versus all 13.
Right.
And then as the clerk, I'm hoping for better understanding. So right now you turn on the meeting on Monday. Are they considering recommendations?
Right.
Or are they making a final decision? You don't know.
The average person has no idea.
No.
Yeah, I agree with that. Is this an effort to make council's meetings more efficient, or does it make it easier for your department, who really ultimately is in control of all of these meetings, to be a little bit more streamlined? Where is the biggest advantage, do you think?
I would say the biggest advantage is twofold. The first is it's for council. They're allowed to, are better equipped to delineate their work. They may be more available to constituents, which I think for all of them they would consider a win. The other piece I would say is that the other benefit is for the public to better understand when they're considering things or when they're deciding.
How would you...
My office, I would say, has very little...
It's the same.
It's the same.
Same for you.
Yeah.
How would you say, Clerk Power, that the amount of people that are paying attention to city council meetings these days, how would you say that has grown or shrunk, whether it be the TV stream or the online stream? As far as the public's engagement in meetings, how has that changed over the last couple of years?
I would say that COVID changed that, right? Like, remember the period of time where we couldn't go anywhere and the world was closed?
And you had to watch council?
And people were watching council because there wasn't much to do.
Right.
I would say we are an anomaly when I talk to clerks in other municipalities. We stream on 3 different channels.
Yeah, it's available
we stream
everywhere.
Online, we stream on Rogers, and we stream on T-Baytel. Plus, you can come and sit in the meeting. Come join me at Chambers.
I've always wanted to.
Right, you absolutely can.
I don't know
They're
if I'm
open
welcome.
to the public.
I don't think I'm welcome.
So there's opportunities, in many ways for people to engage. We also have almost 20 advisory committees. So there's significant feedback from the public through those committees. And then there's programs like yours, right, that are allowing people the opportunity to provide their feedback and hopefully be informed.
Sure. Or at least hear one person's opinion on it. So as we get through this process, tell us what happens next. You have now presented to council, hey, we have an idea for standing committees. And yes, don't worry, we've done our homework, which your team does exceptionally well. And I'm not just saying that because you're in here, because I've said this many times. You have an exceptionally hardworking staff, and what you do is exceptionally important. So thank you for that.
Thank you.
But you've done your homework. So now the first process is presenting it to council, which we've done. What happens next?
So what we presented to council was, hey, we have an idea. Are you interested in this?
Okay.
And council said, yes, we are interested in this. Go look at other municipalities, go look at options, go do a committee review, come back and bring us a draft procedural bylaw that would implement this change for our decision.
Okay. And that draft bylaw comes back to council when?
Before the end of June.
Okay. And as we're sitting here right now, you are open to feedback from the public.
Yes, always.
And how can people get involved?
So on our Get Involved page, we have a survey where you can go
We
on.
like surveys these days at council, don't we?
We
at
do
City
like
Hall?
surveys.
Yeah, there's a lot of surveys.
So there's a survey open till March 31st. My contact information is there. People can provide me feedback. And we're really just collecting that feedback. We've also sent that survey to all members of committees, and we've sent a separate survey to members of City Council.
All right, here it comes.
Oh, I'm ready.
Listen, here's the dilemma I'm in right now.
Right.
Your group, along with
Which group?
your group of hardworking administrators, worked with a committee to talk about change around City Council chambers.
Composition.
Thank you. The composition committee, of which you were a part of, did an exceptional amount of work. Months and months and months of hard work.
Yes.
In a small committee based on the direction of council that said, here, go and look at this. And you did this an exceptional amount of work, which was unbelievably detailed. And you presented this to council a couple of weeks ago. And in my opinion, it fell completely flat. It was a bomb. And it was embarrassing to think that after all of this work that your team did, that council nitpicked every single thing of that report that you brought back. It was an opportunity for change. It was an opportunity to advance our city council. It was done under the direction of council to go and do this work, and that work you did exceptionally well, and it's going to die. It was obvious that it's going to die. I have this sneaking suspicion that this group of councillors is not going to accept this change either. Your thoughts?
And I think that's certainly possible. One of the pieces I want to make clear on the council composition, the committee brought that report, and the committee did significant work.
Not
so
you.
I don't want that to be.
You supported that,
the
and you did a lot of the homework for that committee to do a lot of the research.
Absolutely.
But it was the committee's report, and they did an exceptional job of presenting it too. But it sounds like it's dead, Krista.
Well, I would say that there were questions around clarity that we are bringing back to them in regards to how administrative support would be provided should council decrease. Some questions in and around, the mechanisms of committees and work. We'll bring them that information. April 7th is when they make committee of the whole, makes their final recommendation to city council on this topic.
Well,
you can
place your bets what the answer of that night is going to be. It's going to fail.
Council is allowed to say,
they are.
We don't want to go in this direction. And I think that's one of the pieces that's important here.
This is
they are the final decision makers.
This is where the difference between you and I is that you, as a professional, as a extremely smart person understanding the process, has that determination. My determination, personally, as it says in the disclaimer, just my opinion, is that this council is very scared of that composition change because they know a lot of them will not be able to regain their seats. That's what it comes down to. It's going to come down to there are going to be less people and there's going to be more competition, and I don't want that. I want to be in my cushy seat. So that's just my opinion. How much of this, though, do you worry about with this next proposed change with the standing committees?
I really don't worry about it at all. And one of the things I think that's important is, as administration, we should never be married to our ideas.
Yeah,
right?
I get that.
We do our work, we provide our best recommendation, our professional advice, and then council is the decision makers. So sometimes they agree with us, sometimes they don't. They're free to do so. They're elected by you.
Right.
You chose them. I don't mean you specifically. You chose some of them.
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, the public elected these folks to make decisions for our city. So our council composition work is very separate from our council governance review, and many of our projects can happen in tandem, right? They can happen at the same time.
But there's a lot of the same processes in not only researching what the best means for these meetings are, but going back into archives to figure out the rules of all of this and how to change it. There is a lot of similarities between that group and this group as far as the work goes.
I would say there's similarities in the sense that it's my office leading the work, right? And at the end of the day, we are looking at other municipalities. I'm talking to other clerks. I'm reading procedural bylaws, and they're so much fun.
You have weird fun, Krista.
I know.
Yeah,
I sat with the deputy the other day, and we were about an hour and a half into doing a review, and I said, "Are you having a good time?" And she just chuckled.
Yeah, no, only you are.
That's because I was having a wonderful time in reading through to see again how we could do our work better and how we could make safeguarding and protecting council's decisions more accessible to the public.
You really do exceptional work. Your team does exceptional work, and it is unnoticed by many. And the volume of work that you have is significant. So thank you for doing all of that. I just hope that this next process that brings the suggestion of change back to this term of council might actually be accepted, because that doesn't feel like the first one is. And it's unfortunate because we are trying very hard. And I will credit City Manager John Collin over this by changing the names of managers and creating a growth department and doing all of these progressive, forward-thinking pieces to move us forward. Council seems to be the piece that is not moving forward. And I hope that the composition and with these changes with the meetings, they'll actually accept, because it is a positive change for everybody. That's just my opinion.
No, and I appreciate your opinion, and certainly citizens of Thunder Bay are welcome to their opinion. I wouldn't say that council on a whole is, obstructionist or looking at change as a bad thing. Mm-hmm. I think they're open to that. I think they all have their different perspectives and they bring their different points of view. I know this is where you'll say I don't actually answer the question.
You did, sort of.
I believe I am
answering
the question in saying that at the end of the day, I'm hopeful that they'll consider this, but if they don't, there's nothing wrong with committee of the whole, right? So they could choose to pivot and say, we're comfortable with this and we want to continue. And that's fine too.
So this has to be done this spring in order for it to be put into place soon. And then at composition, same thing, needs to be done by this spring in order to be in place by the next election, 2026.
So let's start with one. So council composition, so changing what city council looks like. And I mean the people who are elected. We need to make that decision no later than this fall, because we have to go through a legislative process in order to make that change that involves the ministry and a potential appeal. when it comes to council governance, which is how they make decisions and their procedural bylaw, generally, I would say it's a best practice that you do that midterm. And we are midterm right now.
Okay.
So that's why those two things overlap, is that it wouldn't make sense for me to do this work in January of 2026 as we approach an election.
Makes sense. Well, thank you for all that you do, and thank you for putting it in all into English, because it does make much more sense now. And it's because you brought your fancy book, the Ontario Municipal Act. It's like her Bible.
I love that book.
You carry it around wherever you go.
I carry it to every city council
Do you
meeting.
have a couple of spares just in case you drop it in a puddle?
No, I do have lots of tabs, though.
Yeah, that's
of
scary.
Things that I
There's
like the best.
the Post-it note. Those things are on computers now. You should try that.
I do use e-laws as well. I tend to be a
fun.
bit old school. Yeah.
City Clerk and Director of Legislative Services is Krista Power. Exceptional work. Thank you for helping us understand all of this in the roundup this morning.
Please fill out the survey. It's open till March 31st. Thank you.